Hello, boys and girls. I want to welcome you to the latest Trainers Talk. I have a great guest, a guest that's returned.
Round two, we'll
Round
call it.
two, round two, 2.5. So I'm looking forward to this discussion with, we can only say this a little bit longer, Mr. Mayor, Christopher Canning. How you
19
doing?
more days, I think.
19 more days. So when this comes out, it might be over. It's probably going to come out next week. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for sitting
Thanks
down.
for having me back, I should say.
Exactly. And thanks for sitting down with me. I think as we have helicopters flying over
I
us.
swear they're not looking for me.
What did you do, Chris? So one of the reasons I wanted to sit down with you, like kind of in this last period of when you're wrapping up being mayor, and you've been mayor for how long?
10 years.
10 years, and then you were in city council for a couple
For
of
2 years prior to that. So
Prior
a
to
total of 12 years.
So 12 years you've been, serving in a political role, the city of Calistoga.
Happily.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. So one of the things that was interesting, I met a person who has lived in a neighboring town.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not gonna say where.
Might be south of here, but we'll go ahead.
Yeah, and they've been in that town for over 30 years. And every Sunday, they come over and do a hike at Mount St. Helena. And I just happened to randomly meet this person through another client, and they were saying, asking me about, what I do, and I was telling them about our gym and the things that we've done in Calistoga. And he's like, it's amazing the progress Calistoga has had in the last 15, 20 years. He's like, I feel our town is just shuffling in place, but it's because he was asking what things were getting built. He was like, I noticed this when I was driving through last week. So when you look back over the last 12 years that you've been in a role, in this political role, what are the things that you're most proud of?
So the progress, first off, that this person recognized or realized in Calistoga is in a controlled and responsible manner while maintaining our character and charm as the community of Calistoga, is probably what they meant to say. So with that aside, what am I most proud of? I'll say that there's one thing I'm most proud of that's not sexy.
Yes.
And then others that are. The unsexy thing, if you will, is the fact that we have achieved financial stability. When I first started on the council and then also as mayor, we were literally bordering on being insolvent. Wow. As a community. A series of decisions that were made in years previous that culminated in having about $17,000 in the bank. Wow. I can leave now knowing that it is we as a team are leaving it in a better place than it was, significantly better place than it was when I found it. Yeah. And while, I call the financial stability unsexy, but without financial stability, you can't do everything else you need to do to, improve the roads and the sidewalks and water and sewer, but more importantly, improve services to the community facilities, community offerings, park and recreation free, community pool, etc. Yeah. So that's kind of the unsexy thing I'm most proud of. Yeah. And then after that, it's just I think that I know we have developed a better attitude and perception of ourselves. Yeah. I think when I first started, we were kind of this, aw shucks, we're just this tiny little community at the top of the valley, and we're not like XYZ community or ABC community. And we have wrestled with, worked through, and now own our identity and own the fact that this is an amazing place to live and grow up and raise a family and work. It's also an amazing place to visit. And there isn't a community anywhere that is better at what they have to offer than here in Calistoga. And that's beyond Napa County as a whole. And we need to continue to be proud of that and own that. And for those of us that live here, we're fortunate to have that. Yeah. For those that come here to visit, we're happy to have them and learn from their experiences. And if they want to leave their money behind to improve the quality of life for the rest of us, that's okay too.
Yeah, definitely. We always is built off visitors, so it's a great kind of tradition to be able to share the beauty and what things Calistoga is.
Absolutely.
So when you started in city council, and even over that first 2 years as you were ramping up to become mayor, what skills did you have when you walked in the door that you found that were going to be beneficial?
So my background, what brought me to Calistoga was I used to work for Nestle, big global company, Fortune 500, at that time the biggest food company on the planet, et cetera. And I ended up working for them for a total of 16 years. And I came in with some experiences and learnings and skills, if you will, that I thought might be helpful. And I'll say that I arrived with an attitude of I'm coming from a corporation, a very well-known, large, respected corporation. I'm just going to take the corporate mentality and apply it to running a city because it's a business and everything will be fine. Yeah. Certainly there are differences to that. There are some fundamentals that work the same. But I think most importantly what I came in with was a bit of a financial experience.
Yep.
How does a P&L work? How does math work? Which wasn't always the case here. And just the collaboration practices, negotiation practices, interactive, interpersonal skills that I learned along the way, both from working with my previous company, but also in how I grew up. And those proved to be and continue to be, as they've been refined, invaluable in the role as a mayor of a small community.
Yeah. So, obviously there's been a lot of businessmen who have tried to go into politics. There's been a lot of politicians who's tried to do business. But when you go into, when you're transforming from a business world into a political world, what skills did you not quite have that you realized you had to develop? Or what things did you have to kind of like turn the shades up or down based off, the inner workings of being in more of a political atmosphere?
So when you're running a business, whether it be your own small business or you're working for a corporation, if there are people you encounter that aren't aligned necessarily with you in that environment, you can either move them on, transfer them, or fire them. When you are an elected official in a community, you can't fire, nor should you, fire your constituents.
Yes.
So what I realized I needed to focus more on was on the interpersonal skills and the compromise element of what I used to do, and carry that over. And some of that comes out to good old-fashioned sales and marketing, where you have an idea or a concept in a community, you need to sell that to, and not in a sleazy, slimy sales concept, but in a, hey, this is why this will be better for all of us. Seeking input from others. Listening is a huge one. In a corporation, sometimes you don't necessarily need to do that. But because it was, or is, still is Nestle, a consumer products company at its core, you certainly need to listen to your customers or your consumers. And then here, as an elected official, our customers, the people we serve, are our constituents, whether those be residents or businesses. So it was having to refine more of the interpersonal skills. Yeah.
So do you have a story of a lesson that kind of came from realizing that, you had to work that type of skill? Is there like I can imagine over 10 years, there's been times where you realize this is going to be a harder rock to move.
There have been several, but I'll say that upon my arrival on the council, and then definitely during the election year when I first ran for mayor, it was the resorts projects. The Calistoga Hills project, and then at the time it was called the Silver Rose project, now known as the 400, sometimes referred to as the Four Seasons. Just based on simple mathematics, fundamentals, and economics, it was clear that if there was ever going to be financial stability, we had to have at least one, if not both of those projects come to fruition. from a long-term financial stability standpoint and what's best for the community. The hard part of that, so that's the simple part, is math is math.
Yeah.
The hard part was helping the community, certainly a good portion of the community, and a referendum later proved this, that a good portion of the community understood that. But there was also a significant number of folks who weren't comfortable with that. So what at that time I felt was an obvious choice or obvious path to take, when you're encountered with a percentage of the population that didn't see that as obvious or were counter to that, that was kind of an awakening of, oh, wait a minute, this isn't going to be as easy as you think. And it comes down back to emotion versus being matter of fact.
Yeah.
A plus B equals C. That's not always the case when it's emotional. Yeah. And a lot of the decisions we make, especially in a community like Calistoga, people's opinions or feelings are certainly emotionally driven.
Yes.
Which tends to be less the case when you're in a pure business function.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one of the things that I've seen either through you and also through clients that I've worked with who live locally is there's a little bit of a wedding feel to how people can, interact with politics. And what I mean by that is that you can take somebody who's very sound at business, whatever thing they do, whatever job. They could be a teacher, they could be somebody who's retired, who's had a very logical, math-based job. But then when they get into a scenario that involves their home, and you understand that, that emotion strips away some of the logic, and you get the scenarios of the Brightzillas and the scenarios where things can kind of go off sideways. But kind of thinking about the things you were just talking about, one of the things that seems like did you have this, or did they have to turn up a notch, was patience?
I will say that as we sit here today, I'm a far more patient person than I was when I started in this role. I grew up in a family where it was very important that you listen to those around you, you experience other people, mom's phrases, everyone has a story, get to know it.
Yeah.
Which requires, in some cases, patience. I would certainly say that there were moments in time where I wanted to drive my head into a wall, because what I thought was obvious for me wasn't necessarily obvious to someone else, and vice versa. And taking that step back to give time for discussion to happen, to give time to listen to how someone else feels.
Yeah.
A phrase I use often now is, as strongly as you feel about a matter or a position, you need to appreciate and understand that someone else on the other side of that issue feels just as passionately and strongly, and you have to allow for that dialogue to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not fun.
It's not fun, but it's necessary, and unfortunately in today's, so we sit here in 2022.
Yeah.
There's far less of that happening in the world than there should be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are, and certainly that's been the case nationally, and we're starting to see it locally now, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and I mean, I every job that we do in any career kind of thing, there is the highlights and there's the lowlights of and that, do you feel like if you didn't have as much of that part of it, the cynicism of, not being able to talk logically with the constituents, do you think that is a piece of why you're ready to not be mayoring again?
I'll start by saying that the vast majority of my experiences in all my time serving this community have been excellent, outstanding. People, the vast majority of people are great. And they just want to raise their family and live their lives and work and play and live here, unobstructed.
Yeah.
What tends to happen with anything is that the outliers, the negative interactions, tend to consume more of the energy,
Yeah.
and that's what quickly comes to mind at times.
Yes.
There are, one of the more surprising things for me in this role has been the number of conversations I've been engaged with that, in my opinion, lacked logic and reason.
Yep.
I'm happy all day long to have conversations, discussions, debates, whatever word you want to use with people, as long as there's a willingness on both sides to hear the other person, to hear the other position, and then seek compromise.
Yep.
And certainly the majority of my interactions have been that. It's just that, and more so lately,
Yeah.
there's been less of that.
Yeah.
Certainly not going to say was a primary factor in my departure
Yeah.
or choosing not to run again.
Yep.
But there's a little bit of a contributing factor to that.
Yeah. And I think also too, I think you have, and I'm biased. I feel
Hope so to the favorable.
I'm biased, but I feel like there's stages, like in any stage of life. There's seasons that you go through, and I think you've gone through the season. And I think you kind of mastered the season of being the mayor of Calistoga.
For that period of time.
Yeah.
I will say there are skill sets that I had and have that were beneficial during that period of time in our evolution as a community. And I think our next phase that we're entering into, now that we're stable,
Yeah.
will be better served by someone who has a different set of skills.
Yeah.
You can't be a community like a person or a family evolves.
Yes.
If you allow it to. If you don't allow it to, then it dies.
Yeah.
So I can walk away very confidently that that we are in a better position today than we were when I started, and that's a team effort, not just me by any stretch. But I also know that it's time for someone else, a different person, a different team, to kind of step up and make, what the next transition is.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult decision to make.
Yeah.
But once the decision was made and once the words were said out loud,
Yes.
not a single regret about that.
Cool.
And the community, it's an amazing place, full of very caring, considerate, compassionate people that will, make the decisions. I can't say that whether they're going to be the right or wrong decisions, but they're going to make the decisions based on the people they have to work with and the circumstances under which they have to work. But again, for me, the biggest walkaway is, okay, we're stable. We've got some room,
Yep.
some breathing room, if you will. And now it's time for the next series of decisions to be made to continue for the community to evolve. And as long as people are open to that, nothing but great things will continue to happen in Calistoga.
Cool. Let's pivot a little bit. So, one of the things that has happened for me in my role of working with clients and building relationships like yourself, that's more than just a client relationship or friend relationship, is that I want to see my clients succeed at the highest level that they feel works for them and within their goals. And oftentimes that means that if I see that there's a set of skills that one client has and another client needs, I might make suggestions for conversations, and I go through the path of checking with the client before dialing out information. But recently, you were nice enough to sit down with a client that we both know, and this client's interested in hiring somebody who can see things at 30,000 feet, who can kind of be in an executive type of role. And I suggested to this person that, they need to talk to somebody who has the skills and who sometimes might look for this type of role. And so what are the things that you're looking for in your future, knowing with the skills that you've built over the last 15 years?
What do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah, exactly.
I never want to grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
I have always viewed my life as kind of this evolutionary process.
Yeah.
And, what I'm doing today, I never would have imagined 15, 20 years ago I'd be doing, or where I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine where I'm going to be 15 years from now.
Totally.
Whether it be where I'm living or what I'm doing or how I'm, passing my time. Every experience you have is an opportunity for you to use those experiences to inform decisions you make going forward. So decisions I make today, big or small, are literally based upon the experiences I've had from my past.
Totally.
And that, being an elected official in a community like this, going through some of the challenges we've had, while potential financial ruin, wildfires, evacuations, COVID, staffing, et cetera, while those were, individually were miserable experiences,
Yeah.
and then you put a whole bunch of them together, a multitude of miserable experiences, having survived all of those and learnings along the way, things you did well, things you would have done differently, you use that to kind of inform your future. And, and keying on a point you were just making, I have always had the attitude that I am by far, or far from, I should say, the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah.
But I've always been able to work to surround myself with smarter people or
Yep.
smart people
Yep.
or subject matter experts. We can't all know everything about every topic. Now, we all know people who think they do, and I know it's quite a burden in life to bear to be the smartest person in every room that you walk into, but I certainly don't have that. But being able and having the confidence and the self-awareness to know when you need to or should seek out that expertise elsewhere is important, and certainly something I've relied on throughout any career I've done and will continue to do so. And with that said, is also why I'm more than happy, based upon my experiences and learnings, to share that with others.
Yeah.
There's no sense in you bumping your head on that branch if I've already done so.
Yeah.
Why not warn you about that branch?
Exactly.
Unless I don't like you, and that's not the case. So.
So what is there a field, is there a industry that you are potentially interested in the future and kind of participating in?
So my daytime job currently, although I spend a lot of my time in the role as mayor by choice, because I think it's what we needed and need to a certain extent now. But my daytime job is I do consulting based on the beverage industry. I've been fortunate. I've been involved in nonprofits. I've been involved in for-profit companies in the private sector and the public sector. Moving forward, it's a little bit of I'm going to take a breath.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate because of the experiences I've had and organizations in which I've worked and some that I've started that I've learned a few things along the way.
Yeah.
So, the old fallback is I'm going to be a consultant for a little while, which I've been doing for a bit now. I would love to, all things being equal, I'd love to still be involved in the public sector in some form or fashion. And I think going forward, after a little bit of a break, I will certainly be back involved in something that benefits or involves the public sector.
Okay.
Or benefits to the public.
Yeah.
Unless I hit the huge lottery and then I'm just going to retire and wander the world and share my wisdom.
Yeah. There's one of the things I kind of want to break down is like even kind of coming back to that skill set of somebody who has, because you're interested in taking a little bit of a breath, kind of pulling back, being able to travel a little bit, which is well deserved. Because I think most people don't know, like when the fires happen, you stay here. You stayed here when
stay here with a team of people,
and things like that. And so I think not having that responsibility of being mayor, you now have a little bit more freedom to live your life in a way that you choose. But if you almost take outside of like where your particular future is, somebody with your skills, what is coming back to the client that you talked to that we're talking about, what are the things that you suggested to that person that when you're looking for somebody who has experience, and what is important to you, or to somebody like you who's had that experience, money, freedom, the challenge, what are the things that you think kind of stand out to most of that?
So what are like my opportunity filters? Like what I look
like,
forward.
Like if somebody approached you and say, hey, I have this opportunity, and what are the things they need to say, or what are the things that they would put on the table that you'd be like, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'll preface this by saying I'm fortunate to be in a position where I have a little bit of flexibility to be selective.
Yes.
If I had kids to feed, I wouldn't have that same flexibility. I've been able to save a little bit of money so I can have some of this flexibility, but which gives me the opportunity to be selective, use the word again, but kind of what my filters are on what I think in making decisions on what I do next. First and foremost is the subject matter interesting to me? Is there a benefit to others by me doing that work? The second thing is certainly the people I work with. I have put in a great deal more emphasis on the people that I would be working with. What's their character? Is there integrity? Is there honesty in those folks? I have zero interest, and again, I'm fortunate to have the flexibility not to have to work with people that I don't like. I know not everybody has that. And then for me, it's also where I work. Do I have the ability to make an impact on that business or that organization? I'm not interested in being somewhere where I'm punching a clock and just kind of showing up. I want to be able to have the opportunity to impact that organization, hopefully for the better. Flexibility is very important to me. Autonomy. If you're going to bring me in to work in a group or with an organization, there has to be some flexibility. I do not do well, and I know this, and I stated up front, I do not do well in an environment where I'm micromanaged. I do not do well in an environment where I have to be extremely detail-oriented.
Totally.
I need team members to help support that. So I'm able to kind of seek that out. And what I say to people who are looking for people for a particular role or a position like your particular client, one of the first things I ask them is, are you in a position to let go and to allow someone else to come in and give them a certain level of autonomy to make decisions and move the organization? It might not be exactly in the direction you want to go, without losing what your core values are. So those are the filters I use in deciding whether there's an opportunity to pursue or not. And again, very fortunate. I have been offered opportunities in the past that I've turned down because, it doesn't fit do I like the person? Do I believe in their values, their integrity? Or, is it in an environment in which I'm not going to thrive, or I'm not going to be allowed to apply the skill sets that I have to help them at the end of the day.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that's what experience brings, and and that makes a lot of sense. Do you have? Well, actually, I do want to ask one more thing. So, I think some people. What can you say? What you're looking forward to for next year? Like the first 6 months or so, when you're potentially traveling. I'll let you talk about that. What are you looking forward to?
The first thing I'm looking forward to is rest. And it's going to be difficult for me because I'm very high energy. I'm very let's get out there. It's been joked. My partner jokes that I'm kind of like a vampire. I thrive off the energy of other people. I love being around other people and kind of learning about them and feeling that energy and kind of growing off of that. With that said, I chose to be from day one as the mayor to be very involved, very engaged, and made it kind of a mantra to do as much as I can, as often as I can, to improve people's situation, either as individuals or groups or neighborhoods or the community as a whole. As such, I have been available all day, every day. I think it's going to be nice to be able to put that phone aside.
Yeah.
And no regrets that I have been available, because I think that's what you should be as an elected.
Yeah.
And literally enjoy the silence.
Yeah.
Also, I'm looking forward to traveling with my partner Van, and just being somewhere where I'm not familiar with other people and other people aren't familiar with me.
Yeah.
And
So I'm going to cut you off for a second.
Please.
What do you envision a typical day will look like in 2023?
so we'll start January 2023.
Yeah.
The first thing I'll do when I wake up every morning is work out.
Now, who are you going to be working out with? Are we?
We're going to have to figure this out.
Yeah.
You're going to have to give me some routines, etc.
Yeah.
Geography is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But technology makes that all go away. I'm going to take more time to do things that I don't allow myself time for now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's certainly more time for health and wellness.
Yep.
Reading.
Yeah.
Or listening to books on tape. And literally just stepping back and taking a breath and thoughtfully planning out what I want to do next. I'm intentionally, and I'm flattered because I've been asked by a few different organizations if I'd be willing to, join their boards or their commissions, to capitalize on the experiences I've had. And I've chosen at this point not to do anything or commit to any group for a little bit of time, just to allow some of that distance.
Yeah.
I'm intentionally choosing to, as much as I love Calistoga, we're going to leave Calistoga for a period of time.
Yep.
Because I think, for as engaged and involved as I've been for as long as I have, 10 years is a long term in this city as a mayor. I think it's only fair to whoever comes next to offer that stage to them alone. I think there would be too much temptation for others to want to try to get to me to influence the new people and the new roles. And also, I don't have a small personality and I don't have a small mouth. And I would like to eliminate my temptation to react to things that will be, and in some cases should happen a little differently than how they've occurred or how I've done them when I was the mayor.
Yep.
So I think separating is giving some distance, both in geography and interactions, will be beneficial.
Yeah, totally.
So-
Well, I don't think I have much more. Do you have any questions for me at all?
What are we going to do? How are we going to continue to work? So wait, who's the longest client you've ever had in your entire very young life, I might add?
Yes. So you have taken the cake, and so we're over 15 years. We have worked together.
Wow, what does that mean? Like, if it was an anniversary, what is it? Is that
I
like
don't know.
wood or paper or what's
about to
15 years?
We're finding out live right here. It's not live to everybody else, but I don't know if you're breaking up with me or people always
It's
make
not you, it's me.
It's not you, it's me.
It's not a breakup, it's a pause.
And your awesome partner Van is a trainer and a coach himself. Second Half Fitness, correct?
Yep, secondhalffitness.com.
Yes. So check that out. And I think I want to get him on this in this seat also. But yeah, what do you think? We'll get offline.
We'll work on that.
We'll get offline and we're going to talk this through, and maybe I'll have a update in a couple of weeks. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It was good to have the
And
conversation.
it's certainly been a pleasure and an honor working with you.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely been a pleasure and an honor and a privilege to serve this community as long as I had. And you actually have known me so long. You knew me before I was the mayor.
Yes, exactly.
And what might not be known is your trainer is almost also like your therapist. But you have this cone of silence. So he, in addition to keeping me alive and hopefully looking good. Um, you've certainly served and helped me kind of balance and relax at times. And you're a great listener and also a great contributor of ideas.
Well, I appreciate it.
All sworn to secrecy, by the way, under the penalty of law.
Yes, exactly. So thank you guys for joining. Thanks. I want to thank Chris for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys. Thank you.